They promised to be there for us, but now the purple apartment is silent. Behind the laughter lies the heartbreaking loss of the friend who made us smile the most, Matthew Perry as Chandler Bing, the man who gave us the laughter to hide his own tears. The story of a comedic genius often begins in the shadows of a lonely childhood, and for Matthew Langford Perry, the journey was no different. Born in the summer of 1969, he grew up feeling like an outsider, using humor as a shield against the silence of a broken home. By the time he walked into the audition room that would change television history, he was a fresh-faced 25 years old, desperate to find his place in Hollywood. As Chandler Bing Perry didn't just play a character, he invented a cadence of speech that would infect an entire generation. With his sweater vests and sarcastic deflections, he became the poster child for the emotionally stunted yet lovable modern man. We laughed at his awkwardness because we recognized it in ourselves, but it was his vulnerability, the desperate need to be loved behind the jokes, that made him the soul of the show. He took a two-dimensional comedic trope and turned Chandler into a man capable of profound growth and deep love. Yet while the world laughed, Perry was fighting a war in the trenches of his own mind. Behind the studio lights, he was trapped in a harrowing cycle of addiction that began when he was just a teenager. The pain was physical and spiritual. A jet ski accident in 1997 introduced him to Vicodin, spiraling into a dependence that nearly cost him everything. He later revealed that he couldn't remember 3 years of filming the show because he was so consumed by the darkness. From a ruptured colon in 2018 to countless stints in rehab, his life was a testament to the brutal reality that fame cannot cure internal wounds. In his final years, Perry found a new purpose that transcended acting. He stripped away the veneer of celebrity to write Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing, a memoir that laid his soul bare to help others surviving addiction. He seemed to be turning a corner, finding peace in solitude and advocacy. However, the darkness has a way of returning when least expected. On October 28, 2023, the world stopped as the news broke that our friend was gone. His passing was ruled an accidental drowning involving the effects of ketamine, a tragic end to a battle he fought so bravely for so long. He died at 54 years old, leaving a void that can never be filled. Today, as we look back, we don't just see a funny man on a sitcom. We see a warrior who tried to save everyone, even when he couldn't fully save himself. James Michael Tyler as Gunther, the silent observer whose unrequited love spoke volumes. Some legends are not born in the spotlight, but stumble into it by sheer accident. Born in the spring of 1962, James Michael Tyler was a working actor simply looking for a steady paycheck when he was hired as an extra, because he was the only one who knew how to operate an espresso machine. He was 32 years old when he first stood behind the counter of Central Perk, completely unaware that his bleach blonde hair, a happy accident from a friend's hair experiment, would become iconic. As Gunther, Tyler proved that you don't need the most lines to make the biggest impact. He was the constant in a changing world, the manager of Central Perk who offered a deadpan stare to the chaos unfolding on the velvet couch. His performance was a masterclass in subtlety. With just a mutter or a longing glance at Rachel Green, he conveyed a universe of adoration and frustration. He represented the audience, the outsider looking in on this tight-knit group, loving them despite their flaws. While Gunther's pain was comedic and televised, Tyler's real-life struggle was quiet and profoundly serious. For years, he carried a secret burden that he chose to keep away from the prying eyes of the press. In 2018, he was diagnosed with advanced prostate cancer, a disease that eventually spread to his bones. He chose to suffer in silence to protect his family and maintain his dignity, continuing to appear at fan events with a smile even as his body began to fail him. When the cast reunited for the HBO special in 2021, Tyler appeared via video link, his frailty visible, but his spirit unbroken. It was a goodbye that many viewers didn't realize was final. He spent his last months urging men to get screened early, turning his personal tragedy into a crusade to save lives. He didn't want pity. He wanted to be the reason someone else survived. James Michael Tyler passed away peacefully on October 24, 2021, at the age of 59. He may have been known as the seventh friend, but to those who knew him, he was a man of immense kindness and quiet strength. His legacy is not just in the coffee he pretended to pour, but in the grace with which he faced his final curtain call. Robin Williams as Tomas, the hurricane of energy that proved no role is too small for a giant. Before he ever stepped onto the set of the most famous apartment in New York, Robin Williams was already a titan of cinema. Born in the summer of 1951, he had spent decades proving that comedy and tragedy were two sides of the same coin. He was 43 years old when he happened to be filming on a nearby lot and was asked to improvise a scene for Friends. There was no script, just a man and his genius stepping into a well-oiled machine and completely dismantling it with brilliance. In a single scene, as Tomas, the man betrayed by his wife Williams, delivered a performance that was manic hilarious and bizarrely touching. He overshadowed the main cast not out of malice, but out of sheer gravitational pull. His rapid-fire delivery and physical comedy in the coffee shop opening reminded the world why he was untouchable. It was a fleeting moment in the series, but it remains one of the most memorable cold opens in television history. But the man who could make the whole world smile was fighting a war against a darkness that few could comprehend. Williams battled severe depression and anxiety for years, masking his internal chaos with external exuberance. Late in life, he was tormented by a then undiagnosed condition, Lewy body dementia, which eroded his mind, causing paranoia and confusion that terrified him. The man who was the sharpest mind in the room was slowly losing control of his own faculties, a torture for someone whose identity was built on quick wit. The world shattered in August 2014 when the news broke of his death by suicide. It forced a global conversation about mental health and the neurological diseases that can drive a person to the brink. His widow later revealed the true extent of his suffering, painting a picture of a man who fought with everything he had until he could fight no more. Robin Williams left us at the age of 63, but his echo is louder than ever. In 2025, he remains the gold standard for improvisation and heart. His brief intersection with the Friends universe serves as a reminder of his generosity as a performer, a star who burned so brightly that he illuminated everything and everyone around him. Matt LeBlanc as Joey Tribbiani, the heartthrob who taught us the innocence of loyalty. In the unforgiving streets of Hollywood, Matt LeBlanc was a survivalist. Born in the summer of 1967, he came from a blue-collar background, bringing a raw, working-class authenticity to a town of pretenders. Before he landed the role of a lifetime, he was down to his last $11, a starving artist in the truest sense. He was 27 years old when he auditioned for Joey, carrying the weight of desperation that he expertly hid behind a charming smile and a leather jacket. Joey Tribbiani could have easily been a one-note caricature of a dim-witted womanizer. In LeBlanc's hands, however, he became the moral compass of the group. He played Joey with a childlike innocence that made his promiscuity forgivable and his stupidity endearing. Whether he was protecting his friends or refusing to share food, LeBlanc infused the character with such warmth that Joey became the brother everyone wished they had. He was the safety net, the one who would never judge, only support. Life outside the sitcom bubble was far more complex than Joey's simple existence. LeBlanc faced the dissolution of his marriage to Melissa McKnight, a painful public chapter that ended in divorce in 2006. He also retreated from the limelight to care for his family, specifically his daughter, prioritizing fatherhood over fame. The failure of his spin-off show, Joey, was a professional blow, forcing him to step back and reevaluate his identity away from the character that defined him. LeBlanc eventually roared back into the public eye, reinventing himself as a silver fox with a self-deprecating wit in Episodes, and later as a host of Top Gear. He aged into his features with grace, trading the boyish charm for a rugged, experienced demeanor. By late 2025, he has largely stepped away from the grind of daily production, choosing a life of semi-retirement and peace. Now, 58 years old, Matt LeBlanc stands as a testament to staying true to oneself. He survived the typecasting trap by leaning into his natural charisma. He remains the protector of the friend's legacy, the one who looks back not with regret, but with the quiet satisfaction of a man who knows he made the world laugh. Lisa Kudrow as Phoebe Buffay, the beautiful oddball who danced to her own rhythm. Lisa Kudrow was never meant to be a conventional star. She was too smart, too unique, and too interesting. Born in the summer of 1963, she was on a path toward biology and research, following in her father's footsteps before the comedy bug bit her. She was 31 years old when she picked up the guitar to play Phoebe, bringing with her a distinct improvisational style honed in the fires of the Groundlings. She was the oldest of the main cast, possessing a maturity that allowed her to play the most immature character with genius precision. Phoebe Buffay was the wild card, the street-smart hippie with a dark past and a sunny disposition. Kudrow's performance was a high-wire act. She balanced the absurdity of Smelly Cat with moments of profound wisdom. She was the outsider within the inner circle, the one who challenged the group's neurotic norms. Kudrow made weirdness cool, teaching an entire generation that it was okay to be different, to run strangely through the park, and to believe in things others couldn't see. Yet standing next to two of the most scrutinized women in Hollywood, Kudrow fought a private battle with her self-image. She has spoken candidly about the body dysmorphia she felt when seeing herself on screen next to her petite co-stars, feeling like a mountain in comparison. The pressure to conform to a specific aesthetic was crushing. Even as a teenager, she underwent rhinoplasty to fit in, a decision that speaks to the deep-seated insecurities she carried into her adult life. Kudrow channeled her intellect into a career that defied expectations. She became a powerhouse producer and writer, creating The Comeback, a searingly brilliant critique of the very industry that made her famous. She refused to fade away, constantly reinventing herself in dramatic and comedic roles alike. In 2025, she is revered not just as an actress, but as a creative force who took control of her own narrative. At 62 years old, Lisa Kudrow is the cool aunt of Hollywood. She navigated the treacherous waters of post-sitcom fame by being undeniably herself. Her legacy is one of intelligence and resilience, proving that the quirky girl in the back of the room was actually the smartest person in the building all along. Jennifer Aniston as Rachel Green, the girl next door who became a global icon. The trajectory of Jennifer Aniston is the stuff of Hollywood legend, but it began with humble uncertainty. Born in the winter of 1969, she was the daughter of an actor raised in the shadow of the industry, but struggling to find her footing within it. She was just 25 years old when she rushed into the casting office, having nearly missed out on the role entirely due to another commitment. She was a young woman with a distinct spark, unaware that she was about to become the most famous face on the planet. Rachel Green was the entry point for the audience, the runaway bride who had to learn how to live in the real world. Aniston gave Rachel a journey of evolution from a spoiled princess to a career-driven executive. Her comedic timing was impeccable, but it was her hair, her style, and her vulnerability that captivated millions. She became the archetype of the modern woman, flawed, ambitious, romantic, and resilient. She wasn't just a character. She was a trendsetter who defined the aesthetics of the 1990s. But extreme fame demands a terrible price. Aniston's personal life became public property, dissected in tabloids with ruthless efficiency. She endured 2 high-profile divorces, first from Brad Pitt and later from Justin Theroux, all while the world speculated cruelly about her choices regarding motherhood. The scrutiny she faced regarding her childless status was a relentless assault on her womanhood, a pain she bore with a dignified silence that masked deep frustration with societal expectations. Through the fire, she forged a career of steel. She transitioned from America's sweetheart to a dramatic heavyweight, producing and starring in The Morning Show, where she tackled complex, unlikable, and gritty roles. She took ownership of her image, fighting back against the tabloid culture that tried to define her. By late 2025, she stands as a titan of the industry, a woman who survived the microscope and came out stronger. Now 56 years old, Jennifer Aniston is more than a survivor. She is a symbol of endurance. She proved that a woman's value is not determined by her marital status or her maternity, but by her work and her character. She remains one of the last true movie stars loved not just for who she was, but for who she fought to become. Courteney Cox as Monica Geller, the glue that held the family and the show together. Courteney Cox entered the arena as the most established name among the six, a woman who had already tasted fame but was hungry for a legacy. Born in the summer of 1964, she brought a Southern charm and a fierce work ethic to Los Angeles. She was 30 years old when she was offered the role of Rachel, but fought to play Monica instead, sensing a kinship with the character's strength and neurotic drive. She was the matriarch of the set from day one, fostering the bond that would make the cast inseparable. Monica Geller was the high-strung, obsessive chef who demanded perfection, yet Cox infused her with a desperate need to nurture. She was the beating heart of the apartment, the one who opened her door to everyone. Cox's physical comedy, often underrated, was fearless. She was willing to be shrill, controlling, and unglamorous if it served the joke. She grounded the show, providing the emotional stakes that made the romances and friendships matter. Behind Monica's organized facade, Cox faced a turbulent reality. Her marriage to David Arquette, though filled with love, crumbled under public pressure, ending in divorce in 2013. More privately, she fought a harrowing battle with postpartum depression, a darkness that descended just as her character was achieving her happy ending. Furthermore, she has been brutally honest about her struggle with aging in Hollywood, admitting to regretting cosmetic procedures she underwent in a desperate attempt to chase youth, a vulnerability that endeared her to women everywhere. Cox reinvented herself not by running from her past, but by embracing her darker side. She returned to the Scream franchise and starred in Shining Vale, exploring horror and comedy with equal skill. She also stepped behind the camera, directing and producing, proving that her vision extended far beyond acting. In 2025, she is a woman comfortable in her own skin, having dissolved the fillers to reveal the beauty of her experience. At 61 years old, Courteney Cox remains the fierce, loyal friend she always portrayed. She taught us that perfection is a myth, but showing up for the people you love is real. Her legacy is one of tenacity, a reminder that the strongest person in the room is often the one holding everyone else up. David Schwimmer as Ross Geller, the intellectual who turned heartbreak into hilarity. David Schwimmer was a theater man at heart, an artist who valued the stage over the screen. Born in the autumn of 1966, he had actually quit television after a sour experience retreating to his theater company in Chicago. He was 28 years old when the creators of Friends wrote the role of Ross specifically for him, courting him back to Hollywood. He didn't audition for the part. The part was born from his unique voice, a testament to his distinct talent before the cameras even rolled. Ross Geller could have been unlikable, a jealous, whining academic. Yet Schwimmer was a physical comedy prodigy, often compared to Buster Keaton. From the leather pants to the spray tan, he threw his body into the absurdity of Ross's life. He made us root for a man who made terrible decisions because he communicated Ross's heartbreak so effectively. He was the romantic lead and the clown simultaneously, a duality that drove the central love story of the decade. The explosion of fame was perhaps hardest on Schwimmer. He struggled deeply with the sudden loss of anonymity, retreating into a shell and viewing his celebrity as a burden rather than a gift. This discomfort strained his relationships and made the early years of the show a time of anxiety rather than celebration. In his personal life, he faced the heartbreak of divorce from Zoe Buckman in 2017, navigating the challenges of co-parenting while the world watched. Schwimmer found his salvation in directing and character work. He stepped away from the leading man archetype to play nuanced, often darker roles, such as Robert Kardashian. He became a fierce advocate against sexual harassment, working with the Rape Treatment Center, using his voice for justice rather than applause. By 2025, he has cultivated a life of artistic integrity, choosing projects that challenge him rather than those that pay the most. Now 59 years old, David Schwimmer is recognized not just as Ross, but as a brilliant dramatic actor and director. He survived the typecasting by waiting for the world to catch up to his range. His legacy is one of artistic discipline, proving that the man who shouted, "We were on a break," was always capable of much, much more. Maggie Wheeler as Janice Litman-Goralnik, the laugh that haunted our dreams and stole our hearts. In the ecosystem of a sitcom, the recurring guest star usually fades into the background, but Maggie Wheeler ensured she would never be forgotten. Born in the summer of 1961, she was a working actress known for her natural, earthy voice, a stark contrast to the character she would create. She was 33 years old when she auditioned for what was supposed to be a one-off appearance. She decided to create a safety net for herself. If she was obnoxious enough, the writers wouldn't fire her, they would bring her back. As Janice Wheeler created a cultural phenomenon with 3 simple words, "Oh my God." She was the nasal leopard print-wearing ex-girlfriend who just wouldn't go away. But Wheeler played Janice with such genuine affection and lack of malice that the audience couldn't help but love her. She was the chaos agent who appeared whenever Chandler's life was going too well, providing a hilarious foil to the sarcasm of the main cast. While her on-screen persona was loud and grating, Wheeler's real life was one of quiet grace and resilience. She navigated the industry without the protection of being a main cast member, meaning she had to constantly hustle for her next role despite being a global face. She watched from the sidelines as her co-stars became millionaires, maintaining her professionalism and dignity without succumbing to bitterness. The challenge of being forever associated with an annoying character requires a deep security in one's self-worth. Wheeler embraced the legacy of Janice with open arms, becoming a beloved figure at fan conventions and reunions. She never ran from the character, she celebrated it. She continued to work steadily in voice acting and guest roles, her real voice smooth and melodic, often surprising fans. In 2025, she remains a working actor, grateful for the role that made her immortal. At 64 years old, Maggie Wheeler stands as the ultimate scene stealer. She proved that you don't need top billing to own the show. Her legacy is one of joy and impeccable comedic timing, reminding us that sometimes the most annoying people in our lives are the ones who truly care the most. Fred Willard as Mr. Burrows, the improvisational master who made every second count. Fred Willard was a legend of comedy long before he walked onto the Friends set. Born in the autumn of 1939, he was a pioneer of the mockumentary style, a man who could find the funny in the driest of lines. He was 55 years old when he appeared in the show, already a veteran who commanded respect from the younger cast. He didn't need a backstory. He just needed a camera and a moment to shine. Though his time on screen as Mr. Burrows, a zoo administrator and colleague of Ross, was brief, it was unforgettable. Willard brought his signature clueless authority to the role, delivering lines with a straight-faced absurdity that left the audience in stitches. He represented the adults in the room, the older generation looking at these 20-somethings with utter confusion. It was a masterclass in how to walk into a hit show and seamlessly fit into its rhythm. Behind the constant smile and the befuddled characters, Willard faced significant hardships in his later years. In 2012, he faced public humiliation following an arrest at an adult theater, a scandal that would have crushed a lesser man, though charges were dropped. More painfully, he lost his beloved wife Mary in 2018 after 50 years of marriage. The grief of losing his life partner was a heavy blow, yet he continued to work using comedy as his lifeline. Willard worked until the very end, refusing to retire. He brought his unique charm to Modern Family and Space Force, his timing remaining sharp even as his body aged. He was a comedian's comedian, a man who loved the work more than the fame. He passed away on May 15, 2020, leaving a silence where his distinct dry laughter used to be. Fred Willard died at the age of 80, leaving behind a body of work that spans decades. He was the kind of actor who made everything he touched better. His brief intersection with the Friends legacy serves as a reminder of the depth of talent that surrounded the main cast, elevating the show from a sitcom to a classic. Teri Garr as Phoebe Abbott, the original quirky blonde who passed the torch. Teri Garr was the blueprint for the eccentric, lovable blonde archetype that Lisa Kudrow would later perfect. Born in the winter of 1944, she was an Oscar-nominated actress known for her roles in Tootsie and Young Frankenstein. She was 50 years old when she was cast as Phoebe Buffay's birth mother, a casting choice that was nothing short of perfection. She brought with her a pedigree of cinema history bridging the gap between the classic comedies of the 70s and the modern sitcom. As Phoebe Abbott Garr was a revelation. She mirrored Kudrow's mannerisms so perfectly that you believed they shared DNA. She provided the answer to the question, where did Phoebe Buffay come from? Garr played the role with a mix of flakiness and warmth, showing us that the eccentricity was indeed hereditary. It was a passing of the comedic torch, a legend acknowledging the new generation. But Garr's life was becoming a struggle against her own body. In the late 90s, she began to experience symptoms that were eventually diagnosed as multiple sclerosis, MS. She went public with her diagnosis in 2002, a brave move in an industry that often shuns illness. She suffered a brain aneurysm in 2006, enduring a long and arduous recovery. The vibrant dancer and actress was slowly forced to retreat from the screen as her mobility declined. Garr spent her final decades as a fierce advocate for MS awareness, showing the world that disability does not diminish worth. She retired from acting, living a quiet life away from the cameras that once adored her. On October 29, 2024, the world lost her spark. Teri Garr passed away at the age of 79. Her legacy is not defined by her illness, but by her effervescent spirit. She was the sunshine in every scene she inhabited, a woman who danced through life even when the music stopped. In the Friends canon, she remains the mother of all quirks, the original free spirit. Charlton Heston as himself, the Hollywood titan who gave Joey Tribbiani a lesson in grit. Charlton Heston was not just an actor, he was a monument of American cinema. Born in the autumn of 1923, he had parted the Red Sea and driven a chariot into history long before Friends was even a concept. He was 71 years old when he agreed to a cameo bringing the weight of Ben-Hur and Planet of the Apes into the light-hearted world of a sitcom. He was the ultimate contrast, the gritty, serious thespian stepping into the playground of Generation X. In his scene with Joey, Heston played a heightened, intense version of himself. He caught Joey using his private shower and delivered a dressing down that was both terrifying and hilarious. It was a collision of two worlds, the old guard of Hollywood sternness meeting the new guard of sitcom goofiness. Heston's willingness to parody his own tough guy image showed a sense of humor that few knew he possessed. However, the Iron Man of cinema was facing a foe he could not intimidate. In 2002, Heston announced to the world that he was suffering from symptoms consistent with Alzheimer's disease. The man known for his sharp eloquence and commanding presence began the long, slow fade into the fog of memory loss. His final years were marked by a withdrawal from the public eye as the disease took its toll, a tragic irony for a man whose life was built on memorizing great words. Heston's later years were also defined by controversy regarding his political activism and leadership of the NRA, making him a polarizing figure. Yet as his health declined, the debates faded into a respectful silence for his contributions to film. He passed away on April 5, 2008. Charlton Heston died at the age of 84. Regardless of politics, he remains a giant of the screen. His brief moment on Friends stands as a strange, wonderful artifact, a moment when the history of cinema stopped by Central Perk, to remind us that before there were friends, there were legends. The 6 keys are on the counter and the fountain has gone dry. Standing here in late 2025, the world feels colder without Chandler Bing. We cherish the survivors, but we weep for the unspeakable tragedy of Matthew Perry, the sarcastic soul who fought a lonely battle in the dark while lighting up our lives. The circle is broken, but the love remains eternal. Good night, Chandler. You are finally free.